Okay, today we're talking about researching a family name on Family Search in 5 steps. And so first, I'm just going to log into Family Search into my account. And what I would typically do when I'm starting is I used to just get kind of lost, like where was I? What was I doing? And so I always encourage people to start a little spreadsheet of names. And I have my 8 great-grandparents down here at the bottom. A line for each of my great-grandparents. So right now I'm on the Felberg line. And so I'm on the Felberg spreadsheet. And what I'm going to do is I always work from oldest to youngest in a sense. So the oldest person that I know of in this family line is this Carl Felberg, my great-great-grandpa's brother. And so I've kind of just worked down from his family. And then my great-grandpa was his younger brother. So he'll be a little bit farther down here in the blue that you see. And then right now I'm down to is a woman named Matilda Henrietta. So let me just see if I can find her. I think I might have passed her. Matilda Henrietta, right here, Felberg in yellow. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to her in Family Search. And so you could obviously type in her information, or we're just going to make it a little bit faster. We're going to type in her ID. So if we go to Family Tree, and then we go down to Tree, right here, we could look at our tree. But right now I'm going to just try to find her specifically. So I'm going to go to Find, and I'm just going to type in this ID. So it says Find by ID. So I'm going to copy and paste that, and I'm going to pull up Matilda. So I'll just click on her and her person. And then I'm just going to look at her since she's my next person in line. Want to see if she's gotten all of her work done is more or less my goal. And I just want to kind of clean up her page, just make sure everything's good on Matilda. So I can, cross her off. We've made sure her and then later her family have all been covered. So some of the things that I might do on there are first I look at, okay, she's got some sources already on there. That's great. Love to see that. And I see if there's anything else that I might need to add. So for instance, over here on the right, it has a hint already of a find a grave index. And this is one of my favorite sources. A lot of times you can just find such good information here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click on this. And I'm going to just view the record. So I could just review and attach if I feel like that's her. And I'm just going to view the record just to kind of show you some of the things that I do with this record. So I've got this Find a Grave. And first thing that I notice is that I don't have any gravestone photo of her here on this Find a Grave. So I'm just going to click Request a Photo so I can get that headstone photo. So that's one of the things I might do. But then I can also just look at, is there any information on her family search page that I don't have on, or that is on here that I don't have on there. So for instance, she was born in 1863 and she died in the 22nd of May, 1927. So those are on there. But one thing that you'll notice is that her name
Her middle name.
is a little bit different on, is this the one I think that I found? So for instance, you see on this one, it says Matilda and then Mathilde. So just a little thing, but Mathilde. And so I might take a look at that and just see which one's right. So obviously on this Find a Grave, it says Mathilde. Then I might look through some of the sources just to check and see which one, because again, sometimes you might find some sources say Matilde, some say Matilda, just trying to figure out which one you think is most likely her birth name. And just to give an example, if she were to have an actual birth record on here, then I would use that as the primary source because that's an actual birth record. The death record is kind of a secondary source, but I don't actually have her birth record on here. But here's another source that says, again, Matilda, marriage record. Anyway, I find quite a few that are Matilda. So I might go ahead and go into this details if I'm feeling strongly about it and just edit and change her name to Matilda, which I already know that it is because I looked into this before we talked. So just to make sure.
Is there a German spelling versus an English spelling? And is
Uh-huh.
that why they would have had it that way?
Sometimes, so in this one, so let me just show you this really quick. So save. So that's what happens with my family a lot is, as you can see, like she's from Germany and born in Australia. And so some of them do say Matilde. We can't find the birth record that says Matilde, so I'm still just not positive that it's Matilde. I feel like it's Matilda just from all of the others. But like you say, a lot of times people do change once they come to the country. And so that's where it does get a little bit tricky. But that's
So
a
do you often go down into the other information and add alternate names?
and that's a great point because that's a great way to then have different ways to find her information. And so yeah, that's a whole nother thing that you could add too. So again, on this, we're just trying to clean up as much as we can, get as much information as we can, possibly get this headstone photo. And then you'll also see here it mentions the death notice, mentions that she's the wife of a certain man, mentions Matilda again. Anyway, so I would probably copy and paste this and add this also to her memory, just like add a little note about that. And you could add it as like you could write it as a little story, just add that little bit of information. And then this is where you'd also come to add a memory if you are able to get that headstone. And so I just upload that photo here, and then I might upload it here. And then another good source is Ancestry. And when I look at Matilda on Ancestry, there's actually a photo of her. And so I would probably choose to put that actual photo of her here on Family Search. So then once I feel like I've gotten as much information as I can, I've gotten our page pretty cleaned up, everything's looking pretty good, then I'd just go back to my spreadsheet and I'd mark some information. I just have some things down. If I found a picture, how many sources, and then also obviously the next big part. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention is if you notice in this obituary, sorry, it's the one on Ancestry. It mentions that she has children too, that she has 4 daughters and 3 sons. And so that was really helpful information too from Ancestry to be able to then go in and add her. I'll be able to add her children and now her husband, who's mentioned in her obituary too. And then I'll do the research on them. This is just a really great way on the spreadsheet to keep track and make sure that you're not missing anybody. You're not missing any kids. You're not missing any husband in the search, and that's why I mentioned the spreadsheet. So then I put in as much information as I can, and I go over to the ordinances. And as you'll see here, if your LDS, you can request that temple work. And in her situation, you can see that it's been shared with the temple. But now I can go and request that, and it'll give me 4 months to do that work that someone else had already shared with the temple. So it's really just a fun, neat way. So that's the process of just kind of going through a particular person and marking that information on your spreadsheet. So those are kind of just five steps. Again, just kind of keeping track on the spreadsheet or however you like to keep track, starting where you left off so we don't miss any people, like we would be doing, adding her husband and her children, and then going to Family Search, adding any sources that you find. So for instance, that find a grave that we found, we would add that as a source. And then we can also go down to even Family Search or Ancestry to search more sources, kind of like I was mentioning that I had done. And then we can add any photos or information. So again, that memory, that little obituary as a story, or adding a photo here under memories. And then we just want to have it as correct as possible. And then we can reserve that temple name. So that's kind of the idea behind our cleanup generation, is how someone referred to it in a class to me once. So anyway, next week we'll be talking about doing this from Ancestry, starting with Ancestry, moving to Family Search, and I'll show some benefits of that. It's a little bit easier. You can connect everything that you do on Ancestry to Family Search, and that's why I do research that way. But this is doing Family Search, searching first. Next week, we'll show how to search from Ancestry first and then transfer all of that information to Family Search.
So
Okay,
going back
so
to your
much for
spreadsheet,
joining. Let me just pause that really quick. Sorry.